Good evening and welcome to the LaRouche Movement's weekly battle report. Today is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. I'm Michelle Aaron, your host. A phase shift has begun. Is it possible, as threatened by the new US National Security Memorandum 2025, that the United States will no longer place Russia and China as explicit enemies and will further prevent future expansion of NATO? But are we headed for a war in the Caribbean? This potential change of geometry and the turmoil it is generating among policy elites is an opening, one in which we must interject as quickly and as effectively as possible the ideas on how to end geopolitics, how to end Wall Street wars and bailouts, and develop our nations. This past week, the LaRouche movement intervened with this top-down conception into many strategic hotspots around the world. In tonight's report, we have on-the-ground reports from Washington, D.C., where yesterday the LaRouche movement began a much-needed campaign to head off the impending blowout of the financial system and the more important blowout of the physical economy by demanding the restoration of Glass-Steagall and a national bank. In Germany, where tens of thousands of students took to the streets over the weekend to oppose mandatory drafts to fight in future wars against Russia. We have some photos from Mexico, where organizers deployed to a busy city center to discuss real proposals for development of Mexico. Back in the United States, an update from the campaign of Jose Vega, congressional candidate in the Bronx, and two on-the-ground reports from California and Texas intervening against the Trump administration's threatened attack on Venezuela, and a short report from Yemen. First, let's go to Diane Sayre, who in her latest TikTok addresses the content of the new US National Security Policy Memorandum and the freakout by the warmongers.
There's a massive freakout going on against the new White House national security strategy, which in my opinion is a mixed bag written probably by several different people with a juvenile, pompous overtone, but nonetheless is a dramatic change from what we had before. Namely, it does not state that Russia and China are the number one threats to our republic, and that the American people are sick of forever wars, and that we have to stop the, it cannot appear as though NATO is expanding, and NATO should not be expanding, and Europe should pay a greater share of their own defense. So these principles, these policy matters have freaked out the works. The Europeans are going absolutely mad because they're trying to prepare for a war with Russia next year or the following year. You have people in France, effectively the head of the Joint Chiefs, saying that French parents to send their children to die. Friedrich Merz, who used to be the head of BlackRock for Europe, wants to spend billions of euros arming Ukraine and purchasing weapons which won't even be produced for 3 years, like aircraft from Sweden. So they're going crazy. And then members of Congress, Don Bacon, a Republican from Nebraska, Adam Smith, Democrat, complaining that President Trump doesn't want a war with Russia. And what I found the most hilarious is the freak out in the New York Times by David Sanger, their Washington correspondent. Remember, the New York Times, which played a leading role in cheering for the impeachment of Donald Trump in his first term, is now complaining that President Trump has changed his position. They say in the first term, the national security strategy said Russia and China are our big competitors, but this one no longer does. When did you think you would see the New York Times longing for Donald Trump, the one that they kept trying to impeach. So it just shows you also that there is no difference between the liberals and the neocons. They're all pro-war. They're all pro what you would call deep state, really the British Empire. And the New York Times is letting it all hang out because unless people are really going senile or you've played a few too many video games and spent too much time multitasking on social media, you should remember that they could say nothing positive about Trump in his first term, but now that he seems to not be interested in NATO expansion or a nuclear war with Russia, they're going absolutely bonkers. So go to the White House, whitehouse.gov, read the national security strategy. It's worthwhile. You'll see what I mean. It's kind of a mishmash, but clearly it's freaking out the right people.
Now to Washington. The LaRouche movement launched yesterday a beachhead in the US federal Congress to intervene on the onrushing collapse of our financial bubble that people refer to as a financial system. Even this week, the US Congress is working on making our under consideration tomorrow the Investment Act, designed to more retirement funds for teachers and employees of nonprofit organizations and more to be invested in speculative financial markets. What is needed? Opposite approach. Reenact Glass-Steagall to separate the banks, recharter the Federal Reserve as a bank of the United States for infrastructure and manufacturers, and put in a Hamiltonian credit system. Tim Rush and Kunle Ofetimi will now report from Capitol Hill yesterday, where we had a team out with 5 successful meetings in congressional offices.
I'm Tim Rush with the LaRouche organization.
And Kunle Ofetimi.
We're part of a 3-person LaRouche organization delegation on Capitol Hill today. We're hitting offices in the House with a vital package of legislation that combines restoring the Glass-Steagall banking provisions, which had been on the books for 66 years but were abandoned fully, together with inserting and in fact taking over the Federal Reserve with a national bank in the model of what Hamilton established at the founding of the country. Later on, similar banking procedures under Lincoln, under Franklin Roosevelt, and in a certain way under John Kennedy. We're getting interested responses, some Democrats, 1 Republican office so far, and we'll be pursuing this intensely, and we call on everybody who's listening to this video to be immediately bringing themselves up to speed on what's involved here, putting themselves forward as a citizen intervention force along with the LaRouche organization that is going to make this front and center immediately at every level of government and other institutions like trade unions across the country. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, what I would like to add further is that what we've been discovering in these meetings is that the deep understanding between money coming into the system, that is into the economic system, being used for speculative purposes versus credit, which is supposed to be defined as wealth as investment into the future. These meetings that we've been having so far is that we've been seeing that the meetings we've been having with the aides is that they're grappling, trying to really understand the difference between credit versus money. And at the same time, we also learned the importance of what Henry C. Carey did by being an advisor to President Lincoln during the Civil War, and also Lyndon's role as the living embodiment of the American system, which has now taken in the form of the BRICS, the global majority, which is the South, which is now implementing what Lynn is doing. Please try to get involved. This is, as what Tim just said, this is a mobilization so that we can make sure we can cause a sea change in the orientation and the direction which the president, the country is heading into.
As they pointed out, you are urged to join this mobilization. We have pulled together a very thoughtful and useful set of materials for you, posted on the LaRouche Organization website. You can go directly to laroucheorganization.com/glass_Steagall. This page includes a resolution titled Resolution for Glass-Steagall. Read it, download it, and get it introduced and passed by state legislatures, city councils, trade unions, religious and other organizations, and individual endorsements, especially people with interesting titles. Members of Congress will be moved to set up meetings with us when presented with these resolutions of support. To Germany. As Diane mentioned earlier, several European nations are insanely organizing themselves for future wars, especially towards Russia. We go now to Germany, where the LaRouche movement participated over the weekend in several demonstrations where tens of thousands of students are coming out to demonstrate their opposition to possible mandatory military draft. We will hear from Christoph Moos in Stuttgart, Stefan in Berlin. There were demonstrations in Munich, Weimar, and many other places.
Hi, my name is Christoph Moos. I'm here in Stuttgart in Germany at the 5th of December 2025. Behind me you can see students, school kids who are demonstrating against the mandatory draft, which will be introduced probably again starting at next year. Up till right now it is still not mandatory, but the young school kids will be drafted, and the question is whether they will participate in the next wars or not. So they are demonstrating as becoming cannon fodder for the next wars, especially against Russia. And the youth of Germany and Europe is in the major parts against these wars.
Also in Berlin, thousands of students and young people are going and hitting the street in protest against forced military service and conscription. We are supporting these demonstrations and efforts wholeheartedly. We have written a declaration, a statement, saying that you and your protests are justified, but you should also connect with the global youth for peace and development. And we are a very unique vehicle with the Schiller Institute to connect you with youth groups in the Global South, in the countries that are connected to the Belt and Road Initiative and the BRICS. So the next opportunity is December the 14th. We're going to have an international Zoom conference with international youth, and we're trying to connect the German youth that is rightfully protesting with them to form the idea and to fight for the idea of an international new architecture for development and security for all.
Now we'd like to share with you some beautiful pictures from our Mexican organizers from last Tuesday. They were set up in the Hemiciclo Park next to the beautiful monument of Mexican leader Benito Juarez, talking to tons of people, bringing proposals and high-impact materials for the national discussion. They focused this week on discussing the BRICS, the future of the new global order, the Silk Road, large infrastructure projects for cooperation and development. And they had a productive jobs brochure with strategies to trigger real economic growth. So thank you to them. We will now play an update from the congressional campaign of Jose Vega in New York's 15th Congressional District, the Bronx. This is a follow-up to the proposal we shared with you last week, where the campaign has proposed a cross-Bronx train line.
The way I picture this is like we shop music in the beginning. I'm reading your responses to my cross-Bronx train idea. A lot of you seem to have loved it. It's one of our very big proposals that we are pushing right now. And I just want to read some comments here. Good. There's no reason it should take longer to cross the Bronx than to get to Brooklyn. Crossing the Bronx by bus is a calculated nightmare at present and can take half a day. I mean, yeah, nice idea. Executing on it is an entirely different one. Someone responded to that comment saying, there will be so much discussion, the execution will take place by the time Mamdani's first son becomes a New York governor. Love the idea. My great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandkid will surely benefit from it. Someone else here said, I wish this could be expedited and not have to wait 97 trillion years. Versa, it's difficult in the Bronx without a car. However, this is going to take years. In New York City, this project may be completed by the time my grandson finishes colleges or even goes into retirement. Someone said there was a proposal in the past with the D line extended all the way to Co-op City. Good idea. Someone said, there aren't many people who'd be opposed to this, but outside of this is a good idea, I'm not really sure what this guy thinks can happen. Well, allow me first of all to address all of you. Thank you for your responses, your comments, and your feedback, even if it wasn't so nice sometimes. In a planet today where the Chinese can build hospitals in less than 2 months, bridges in less than a year, new cities within decades, why can't we build one measly train line in underneath a year? It is not a matter of technical prowess. We have that. We have much more advanced capabilities than we had when the New York City subway was first built over 150 years ago. No, it's a matter of political will. Any politician who tells you that these things are unfeasible or unrealistic has no idea what they're talking about. The technical prowess, ability of people to come in and do these things on an emergency basis, which is what New York City is in right now. Whether it's its infrastructure, its housing, or even its healthcare system, New York City is on the verge of collapse, and it is a miracle that it's continued to be upheld by the many thousands of workers and essential workers that make this place run every single day. And it's time we declare a state of emergency for New York City as a whole. And we have to implement emergency reconstruction programs that will make life easier for many people. Think of the billions going into the AI bubble. Think of the billions of dollars already being spent to bail out bankers, to bail out Wall Street, to bail out these companies that are doomed to fail. Don't bail out Wall Street. Bail out your future.
Build the cross Bronx train.
Okay, thank you, New York, Jose. Now to California. We have an on-the-ground report from Lena and Dave in Alhambra. Last Friday, they were out mobilizing to get the United States to dump NATO and join the BRICS.
So Dave Hoffman and I are here in Alhambra, California, mobilizing to get the United States to dump NATO and to join the BRICS. We've been talking to a lot of people this morning who've been concerned about the situation with Venezuela, that the United States would get involved in another regime change war. And we're discussing with them the role of the Pope and the LaRouche Organization and the Schiller Institute in promoting the idea of the coincidence of opposites, like the Pope and Mrs. LaRouche has been talking about. We've gotten an interesting response from some people on the question of the United States working with the BRICS. Some people think that it's not a good idea, that we're going to lose our advantage in the world. And so we've been having to discuss the whole question of collaboration as equals for the one humanity. We've got some signs, like our sign on Glass-Steagall and Wall Street, and on Peace Through Development. And we're working to get as many memberships as possible, trying to communicate to people that it's not enough to even just contribute, but to actually join, to become a part of the movement, and to do the kind of stuff that we're doing. So that's my report from Alhambra, California.
Thank you, Lena. We now have a report from Houston, Texas, where organizers went out to join a hands-off Venezuela rally to do two things. First, to point out that the real drug pushers are the financiers in Wall Street and the City of London who run the drug trade, not people in boats, and that must be shut down. And secondly, to talk to the young people who were mobilized to come out that day and mobilize them around our broader perspective.
Hello, everyone. Joe Jennings with the Schiller Institute here in Houston, Texas. We've been at a rally here in the Galleria area of Houston. It's a very mixed crowd, but they're tired of America throwing its weight around all around the world. But we've been bringing a unique component to this thing. First of all, going after the real controllers of the drugs, in international finance, but also inviting people to participate in our forthcoming Schiller Institute Youth Conference for a genuine peace through development perspective, okay? So we've signed up some people to register for our conference, and our word here today is don't invade Venezuela, stuff Narco Rubio, okay? So that's it. Signing off from Houston, Texas. Thank you.
All right, glad that we were out there. Now to Yemen. A fun report. This past Sunday, Dr. Abdulaziz Saleh bin Habtour, who is a member of the Supreme Political Council and a founder of BRICS Day in Yemen, sent a telegram to Schiller Institute founder Helga Zepp LaRouche, who he identifies as the president of the Schiller International Institute, a friend of Yemen, and the new Silk Road lady. The telegram, which he posted on his Facebook, expressed deep appreciation for the pioneering role played by Mrs. LaRouche and her team during the 12 years of the BRICS journey in Yemen, and referred to her contributions in laying the intellectual and economic foundations of the BRICS path based on well-established scientific insights, interest in Sana'a, I believe is the capital of Yemen, and the principle of the development corridor as laid out as a keystone, this development corridor principle of uplifting Yemen and connecting it to the global economy. And if you want some more background on the relationship of the Schiller Institute to the BRICS, which is the BRICS Council is a part of the Yemeni government, one thing we include in the video description here is a message that was sent from Yemeni BRICS Youth Cabinet Chair Fuad Al-Ghafari to a Schiller Institute conference a few years ago. So you can watch his presentation on that. So I think we've seen this evening that the LaRouche movement is seizing the day, is seizing the opportunity to address the many hotspots taking place around the world and interject a conception for unity, a conception for abandoning the failed and harmful policies of the recent decades, create a new international security and development architecture based on peace and development. And this week we saw examples of that from the United States, including Diane Sayre's contribution, Jose Vega in New York, Lena and Dave in California, the crew with Joe down in Texas. We saw multiple offerings from Germany. We saw activity in Mexico, and we saw this delightful telegram from our friends in Yemen. So, and Washington, D.C. with the fight for Glass-Steagall and a national bank. So you are strongly encouraged to do a bit more this week, perhaps than last week. Do something report-worthy and send in your reports to info@laroucheorganization.com, and we'll see